Hi, my name is Ms. De Leon, and today we're going to talk about patterns and finding the rules for these patterns. These are problems that you should have already seen in class, but for extra practice, I am showing them again. Okay, so the very first thing you want to do whenever you are given a problem like this is to draw yourself a T-chart. So I'm going to start by drawing a small T-chart next to the problem. On the first column, you're going to write N. N stands for the position of whatever item you're looking at. In this pattern, I have 4 different items. So I'm going to have 4 different N's. I'm going to have first N, second, third, and fourth because I have 4 different objects. On the other column, I'm going to write F of an N. That means whenever I look at a certain position on my pattern, when I plug it into my rule, I'm going to get something out. I don't know what that rule is. That's what I'm looking for. So, looking at the first object, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 squares. So next to the 1, I'm going to write a 5. Looking at the second object, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 squares. So I'm going to write a 9 next to the 2. On the third object, I have 13 squares. And on the fourth object, I have 17 squares. Now that I have a table, I'm going to go through my answer choices. I'm going to plug and check until I get my correct answer. So I'm going to start with answer choice A. Answer choice A has N plus 4. I'm going to start by rewriting that same rule underneath it, but instead of an N, I'm going to put parentheses because I'm going to start plugging in different values for N to check. So looking at our first value, if I plug in 1 for N, then my table says that I should get a 5 out. So I'm going to plug in a 1 for the N, and if I do this calculation, I do end up with 5. Looking at my table, I should get a 5 if I plug in a 1, so that works. But I need to check out more values before I say that that is my answer. So I'm going to write again my rule, but instead of an N, I'm going to put parentheses. So I'm going to have parentheses 2 plus 4. And if I do that calculation, I end up with 6. So I look back at my table. When N is 2, when I plug it into my rule, I should end up with a 9. But I ended up with a 6. So that means that answer A is not correct. So I'm going to cross it out, and I'm going to start looking at answer choice B. Answer choice B says 4n plus 1. So I'm going to write that 4n plus 1. Underneath it, I'm going to rewrite it, but instead of an n, I'm going to put parentheses. And I'm going to start by plugging in a 1 for the n. My table says that if I plug in a 1 for the n, I should end up with a 5. If I do this calculation, I do indeed end up with a 5. So that works. Let's try another value for n. So I'm going to rewrite my rule with parentheses. This time, I want to try plugging in a 2 for the n. If I do that, I end up with a 9. And my table tells me if I plug in a 2 for the n, I should indeed end up with a 9. So that works. Let's try another value. So I'm going to rewrite my rule with parentheses. I already tested 1 and 2 for n. I'm going to try 3. When I do this calculation, I end up with 13. And looking at my table, when n is 3, I should end up with 13 once I plug that value in. And that is correct. And if I check the last one, it also works. Therefore, B is my answer. Okay, so Watch this video again if you need help with finding patterns. Also, if you have any questions, you can email me. My email is the following: heydevion1 at pasadenaisd.org. Otherwise, you're welcome to stop by my office hours.